Welcome to Scottish Sovereigns on the Land and the home of No Borders Radio.
You're listening to No Borders Radio, and I'll be your host for the next 2 hours. Tonight we'll be delving into the laws of war, more on the charters and treaties that apply to all human beings, and who is implicating policy, why policy is implicated, what is their agenda, etc. And we'll get right into it. We're going to start with the rules of procedure of the Freebird Ethics Commission International, or FECI. This is the revised Rules of Procedure version 2006. This is a quote from page 1 of 6. The expert opinion prepared for a clinical study is based on the current editions of the recommendations of the revised World Medical Association's Declaration of Helsinki, the directives and guidelines of the European Union, and the regulations of the United States Food and Drug Administration, or FDA. Additionally, the current laws and regulations in Germany and all other countries in which the clinical study is to be conducted are also an inherent part of this basis. Now, what you just heard was the United States Incorporated runs the International Ethics Commission, or FECI. Okay, it appears to be located in another area. It is not. It is all through the FDA, maintained and run by Congress. From VacTruth.com, 5-month-old baby dies just 8 days after 8 vaccinations. Parents are charged with her murder. Parents in South Africa are facing life in prison for the murder of their baby girl, who died just days after receiving routine vaccinations. Baby A had received all of her vaccinations on time. On September 25, 2012, when she was aged just 5 months, her parents took her to their local clinic, where she received a total of 8 vaccinations before being sent home. Baby A's mother told VacTruth that the vaccinations were administered extremely harshly, with the nurse appearing to stab their daughter viciously with a variety of needles. Baby A received 8 vaccinations in total. The 5-in-1 vaccine Pentaxim, said to protect against diphtheria, tetanus, acellular pertussis, Haemophilus influenza type B, Hib, and polio. The hepatitis B vaccine, the rotavirus vaccine, and a vaccine said to protect babies against pneumococcal and non-typeable Haemophilus influenza disease called Prenvar. Now, this is from the omsj.org site, the Office of Medical and Scientific Justice. Who charged with pushing vaccines that harm children? That means that the World Health Organization is being charged. However, these directives are through Congress, through the FDA, as you saw in the Rules of Procedure for the Freebird Ethics Commission. Now get this, New Delhi, on July 22nd. A leading Indian journal of medical ethics, isn't that a joke? It's themselves slapping each other on the hand, has charged the World Health Organization with promoting a vaccine whose use has been discontinued in some countries following adverse reactions and deaths in children. In a hard-hitting editorial, the Indian Journal of Medical Ethics, IJME, has accused the WHO of promoting pentavalent vaccine by stating falsely that no adverse event following immunization has ever been reported with the vaccine. The journal says this is contrary to facts. The IGME editorial by Dr. Jacob Polyel, head of pediatrics at St. Stephen's Hospital in New Delhi, is based on his detailed investigation into the deaths of children in Bhutan, Sri Lanka, India, and Vietnam following use of pentavalent vaccine. This vaccine combines the diphtheria, pertussis, tetanus, or DPT vaccine, long used in national immunization programs, with hepatitis B and H influenza B or Hib vaccine. Now let me go back to the previous page. 5-month-old baby dies just days after 8 vaccinations. Parents are charged with her murder. This is not WHO. This is not India. This is not Africa. This is Congress and its program of depopulation, the FDA, stemming from the National Security Council's policy on depopulation. April 24, 1974. Dr. Henry Kissinger proposed in his memorandum to the National Security Council that depopulation should be the highest priority of U.S. foreign policy towards the Third World. He quoted reasons of national security and because the U.S. economy will require large and increasing amounts of minerals from abroad, especially from less developed countries. Wherever a lessening of population can increase the prospects of such stability, population policy becomes relevant to resources, supplies, and to the economic interests of the United States Incorporated. The targeting agency for the operation is the National Security Council's ad hoc group on population policy. Its policy planning group is in the United States Incorporated State Department's Office of Population Affairs, established in 1975 by Henry Kissinger. Now, let your mind wrap around that one, because national security is a depopulation program. From the MiamiHerald.com. At DCF, Department of Children and Families, an untold epidemic of abuse, neglect, and death. From WLWT.com. The state failed her. Mom of woman accused in toddler's death. Cincinnati, Ohio. A mother accused of killing her 16-month-old daughter was ordered held on $1 million bond on Friday. Janisha Cunningham, 23, was arrested late Thursday and charged with aggravated murder hours after Robin Cunningham's body was found in her Bowling Green Court home by a Cincinnati Metropolitan Housing Authority maintenance employee. The girl's father, Robert Middell, said he and Cottingham had asked the Hamilton County Department of Job and Family Services to take care of Robin because he lost his job and Coddington didn't want to care for her. Coddington's mother told reporters Friday that she tried to take the toddler back to Georgia with her within the last 2 weeks, but Job and Family Services wouldn't allow it. She needed help. She reached out for help. She asked for help, Belinda Jones Coddington said. The state failed her. The state Job and Family Services failed her. They assured me she was in good hands, that they were going to take care of her. Now, the whole purpose of putting that child back in a home or keeping that child back in a home with a parent who didn't want her was depopulation. This is another dead baby at the hands of corporate policy. Okay, so back to WLWT.com. The state failed her. Well, what's the state? From Black's Law Dictionary, 1st edition. Commission. A warrant or authority or letters patent issuing from the government or one of its departments or a court, empowering a person or persons named to do certain acts and to exercise jurisdiction or to perform the duties and exercise the authority of an office, as in the case of an officer in the Army or Navy. Also, in private affairs, it signifies the authority or instructions under which one person transacts business or negotiates for another. In a derivative sense, a body of persons to whom a commission is directed. A board or committee officially appointed and empowered to perform certain acts or exercise certain jurisdiction of a public nature or relation, such as a, quote, commission of assise. In commercial law, the recompense or reward of an agent, factor, broker, or bailee when the same is calculated as a percentage on the amount of his transactions or on the profit to the principal. But in this sense, the word occurs more frequently in the plural, such as the county commission, county commissioners. From HamiltonCountyOhio.gov, the Board of County Commissioners, Greg Hartman, Chris Monzel, and Todd Portune. Who murdered this child? The same entity that was commissioned to do so. The Board of County Commissioners of Hamilton County, Ohio. Maintaining under acts of commerce and private acts, they are getting paid to do what they're doing against all of humanity by commission. From Black's Law, 1st edition. Commissioner. a person to whom a commission is directed by the government or a court. In the governmental system of the United States, this term denotes an officer who is charged with the administration of the laws relating to some particular subject matter that relates to a human being, or the management of some bureau or agency of the government. Such are the commissioners of education, of patents, of pensions, of fisheries, of the General Land Office, of Indian Affairs, etc. In the state governmental systems, also in England, the term is quite extensively used as designation of various officers having a similar authority and similar duties. Commission of Array. In English law, a commission is to send into every county, officers to muster or set in military order the inhabitants. The introduction of commissions of lieutenancy, which contained in substance the same powers as these commissions, superseded them. What does that mean? From Black's Law Dictionary, first edition, indemnify, to save harmless, to secure against a loss or damage, to give security for the reimbursement of a person in case of an anticipated loss falling upon him. Also, to make good, to compensate, to make reimbursement to one of a loss already incurred by him. Indemnity, the person who, in a contract of indemnity, is to be indemnified or protected by the other. Indemnitor, the person who is bound by an indemnity contract to indemnify or protect the other. Indemnity. An indemnity is a collateral contract or assurance by which one person engages to secure another against an anticipated loss, or to prevent him from being damnified by the legal consequences of an act or forbearance on the part of the one of the parties or of some third person. Thus, insurance is a contract of indemnity. So an indemnifying bond is given to a sheriff who fears to proceed under an execution where the property is claimed by a stranger. The term is also used to denote a compensation given to make the person whole from a loss already sustained, as where the government gives indemnity for a private property taken by it for public use. A legislative act assuring a general dispensation from punishment or exemption from prosecution to persons involved in offenses, omissions of official duty, or acts in excess of authority is called an indemnity. Strictly, it is an act of indemnity. Okay, so they're promising something in exchange for compensation. Now remember what the county commission does. So we're going now to the Convention for Indemnification of 1802 between Spain and the United States. Basically, Congress owed Spain a bunch of money, and to pay it back, they indemnified you, the human beings that are all under congressional authority. This is a convention between Its Catholic Majesty and the United States of America for the indemnification of those who have sustained losses, damages, or injuries in consequences of the excesses of individuals of either nation during the late war, contrary to the existing treaty or the laws of nations. Now, did you see that? Or injuries and consequences of the excesses of individuals? That follows national security policy, doesn't it? Depopulation. His Catholic Majesty and the Government of the United States of America, wishing amicably to adjust the claims which have arisen from the excesses committed during the late war by individuals of either nation, contrary to the laws of nations or the treaty existing between the two countries. His Catholic Majesty has given for this purpose full powers to His Excellency Don Pedro Ceballos, Counselor of State, Gentleman of the Bedchamber and Employment, First Secretary of State, and Universal Dispatch and Superintendent General of the Posts and Post Offices in Spain and the Indies, and the Government of the United States of America, to Charles Pinckney, a citizen of the said states, and their Minister plenipotentiary near His Catholic Majesty, who have agreed as follows. First, a board of commissioners shall be formed, composed of 5 commissioners, 2 of whom shall be appointed by His Catholic Majesty, 2 others by the government of the United States, and the 5th by common consent. And in case they should not be able to agree on a person for the 5th commissioner, each party shall name one and leave the decision to lot, and hereafter, in case of death, sickness, or necessary absence of any of those already appointed, they shall proceed in the same manner to the appointment of persons to replace them. They have indemnified you. They have promised and pledged you to offset their debt. They are maintaining under perceived losses or potential losses and damage and injury by going against you and collecting on your body first before they can incur any damages or losses. And this is across the board. Now remember, Congress has global governance. They've had global governance forever. This is all at the hands of Congress. These documents are only presentations to make it appear like it's something else. It is not something else. This is Congress globally. Well, why was this child murdered? It was to offset potential losses to the United States of America, a style created by Congress through the Articles of Confederation, 1777. They have pledged and charged you to offset their debt. So this child was basically used as an object, killed by the county commission in order to maintain revenue streams for Congress and Congress's hand. These are not clean hands. And again, the same thing, foxnews.com. Police arrest principal of India school where 23 children died after eating lunch. The principal of a primary school in eastern India where 23 children died last week after eating lunch prepared with contaminated oil was arrested Wednesday, 9 days after she went into hiding, police said. Meena Kumari fled as soon as the children began falling ill after eating the lunch cooked in a school in Bihar state. 23 children between the ages of 5 and 12 died after eating the meal, and many others fell ill. Forensic tests have revealed that the lunch contained toxic levels of a deadly pesticide. A police team investigating the deaths arrested Kumari on Wednesday, and authorities were questioning her to establish how the pesticide got mixed with the food, said Police Superintendent Sujit Kumar. Bihar's Educational Minister P.K. Sahi has said the principal bought the ingredients for the meal from a shop owned by her husband who has fled. The school's cooks have told authorities that the principal controlled the food for the government-provided free daily lunch. Absolutely not. Let me show you. Through Congress, of course. This is the site custompatnazone.bih.nic.in. Government of India, Ministry of Finance, Department of Revenue, otherwise known as the IRS in the United States Incorporated, Inland Revenue Service in the UK and elsewhere. This is all maintaining revenue streams by murdering and making children sick or injuring children, bringing them into law. This is how revenue is generated. Now, if you go right here, you'll find the Chief Commissioner of Customs. From Black's Law Dictionary, First Edition, custom, a usage or practice of the people which by common adoption and acquiescence and by long and unvarying habit has become compulsory and has acquired the force of law with respect to the place or subject matter to which it relates. A law not written, established by long usage and the consent of our ancestors. Terms de la ley. Customs result from a long series of actions constantly repeated, which have by such repetition and by uninterrupted acquiescence acquired the force of a tacit and common consent. Terms. In the law of contracts, conditions, propositions stated, or promises made, which when assented to or accepted by another, settle the contract and bind the parties. The free school lunch program binds the parties because the beneficiary accepted the free school lunches. That is a custom and a means of generating revenue into the original 13 colonies maintained by Congress. 23 children were murdered by Congress, and a principal agent is being blamed for this as a fall guy. Now, since we have been outing them, they have been changing faces. Patna DM among 72 IAS officers that have been shuffled from the HindustanTimes.com. From this report, in a major administrative reshuffle, the state government on Friday transferred 72 Indian Administrative Service officers from principal secretary rank to distinct magistrates level, including Patna DM Sanjay Kumar Singh. According to the notification issued by General Administration Department, or GAD, the government changed 4 principal secretaries, 4 divisional commissioners, and 16 district magistrates. An IAS officer of 2000 badge Purnia district magistrate, and Saravana Kumar has been shifted to Patna in the same capacity. Now what they're doing is they're waving one hand while the other one is in your pocket, or raping your child, or stealing your child, or murdering your child, in order to generate revenue for Congress. These entities have different colors and different cultures and different, quote, customs. They are the same thing. They are Satan. They are your adversaries. They get paid to rape, slaughter, pillage, raise, abuse children, men, and women. We need to stop this now. It is very, very small. The actual administration is very small. However, when they're playing sleight of hand games, the sheeple are looking at this, and it looks so huge. It is not huge. It was not the school principal that killed those children. That was policy. That was agenda maintained by corporations to maintain corporate welfare. This is all to generate revenue on behalf of Congress to offset congressional bankruptcies in the constant and perpetual schematic maintained under the corporate welfare theorem, or the first and second welfare theorems. Stop accepting their free things. Stop looking at them like they're charitable. Get out of this system. Stop claiming to be a citizen. Stop tolerating these, quote, customs and allowing this to fester to the extent that 23 children can be murdered by a school lunch program, and everybody's looking the other way, and they're blaming one individual when this is corporate policy maintained by Congress. And back to the Indemnification Convention of 1802, Article 2. The appointment of commissioners being thus made, each one of them shall take an oath to examine, discuss, and decide on the claims which they are to judge according to the laws of nations and the existing treaty, and with impartiality justice may dictate. Now justice, remember, means justification under the doctrines of necessity. So for whatever reason, whatever mechanism they're going to use to offset congressional bankruptcy, they are to adjudicate this, and the results are horrifying. Children are being slaughtered by these commissioners. Board of Governors are the same thing. Wherein we'll recap the Indemnification Convention of 1802 between Spain and the United States. The 4th article. The commissioners are authorized by the said contracting parties to hear and examine on oath every question relative to the said demands, and to receive as worthy of credit all testimony, the authenticity of which cannot reasonably be doubted. Article 5. From the decisions of the commissioners there shall be no appeal, and the agreement of 3 of them shall give full force and effect to their decisions, as well with respect to the justice of the claims as to the amount of indemnification which may be adjudged to the claimants, the said contracting parties obliging themselves to satisfy the said awards in specie without deduction at the times and places pointed out and under the conditions which may be expressed by the Board of Commissioners. And again, since October 15, 1777, the Articles of Confederation were drawn up. The United States of America is a style or chain of events maintained by Congress. Article 12, all bills of credit, emitted, monies borrowed, and debts contracted by or under the authority of Congress before the assembling of the United States in pursuance of the present Confederation shall be deemed and considered as a charge against the United States for payment and satisfaction whereof the said United States and the public faith are hereby solemnly pledged. Article 5 of the Indemnification Convention. From the decisions of the Commissioners there shall be no appeal, and the agreement of 3 of them shall give full force and effect to their decisions, as well with respect to the justice of the claims, insurance claims, as to the amount of indemnification which may be adjudged to the claimants, the said contracting parties, obliging themselves to satisfy the said awards in specie without deduction at the times and places pointed out and under the conditions which may be expressed by the Board of Commissioners. These Board of County Commissioners are indemnifying us to offset congressional bankruptcy under rules established for insurance. They have maintained the claim. They have maintained the charge. And children are being murdered in order to offset these amounts due and owing. CAPTA, or the Child Abuse Prevention and Treatment Act, is a mechanism by which to generate revenue using children, using men and women, using moms and dads and babies, by which to generate this revenue into the system. The World Health Organization is not the director. The director is Congress. Every time a baby is injured or murdered or broken in some manner, it is through a mechanism called the ICD-10 at this time, which is the current version of the International Statistical Classification of Diseases and Related Health Problems. It used to be known as just ICD-9, the International Classification of Diseases and Disorders. Every aspect of humanity can be diagnosed, from being born to being abused, to being murdered. And these people, these entities, are cashing in on these things through this schematic. It's an insurance schematic. Everything is in insurance. From the dailymail.co.uk, how social services are paid bonuses to snatch babies for adoption. This is the second time of generation of revenue. The first is when the child is diagnosed and removed from its parents. The second time they are diagnosed as adopted, there will be adoption credits paid out to the new adopted families. There will be also adoption credits paid out to the other side, which goes back into the state coffers. And eventually there's like 16 different means and mechanisms of how to use a child just through this one act of Congress, CAPTA itself. Now this has to end. This has to end. They're slaughtering our children, and everybody is consenting as per custom. Please visit chooseyourside.org to find out how to remove yourself from this system, how to self-govern, how to take up your own government and stop relying on a system that's using you and the babies to such an abhorrent extent. This is horrifying. There's the bell. We'll be right back.
Ever feel as though human beings are being farmed? You know, your food is chosen by the FDA, you're told what drugs you can take, what drugs you can't take, what drugs you must take. Your productive value is harvested from you daily. Sales tax, income tax, property tax, utility bills, mortgages, interest payments. When you exercise a bit of freedom on feed or food, traveling or other matters, the farmer cracks down on you. Ever thought of leaving the farm? Learn how. Join Pat and Tami for Leaving the Farm, Saturdays, 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern Time on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, Studio A. See you there, or at the feed trough.
Rocco Show, everything legal plus more. You never know what you're going to hear on the Bo and Rocco Show at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com.
Is there some kind of magic status that will keep you safe from quasi-government intervention? Are there really multiple types of citizens? Doesn't matter if you're a citizen of the national state or the federal state. Is there such thing as a sovereign state? Should you claim constitutional rights? Here at the Bo and Rocco Show, we still maintain divesting all title, do no harm, indict those that do harm as a sovereign state under 28 U.S.C. Chapter 97. You're tuned into freedomslips.com, Revolution Radio.
Welcome to Scottish Sovereigns on the Land and the home of No Borders Radio.
Breaking news from Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. Congress is trying to kill us. Today on chicago.cbslocal.com. State representative, maybe the police are killing some of these kids. An Illinois state representative has publicly raised the possibility that Chicago police officers might be the ones responsible for the unsolved murders of black youths in Chicago. Now, this is corporate policy. This is maintained by Congress. From Black's Law Dictionary, first edition, Confederacy. In criminal law, the association or banding together of two or more persons for the purpose of committing an act or furthering an enterprise which is forbidden by law, or which, though lawful in itself, becomes unlawful when made the object of the confederacy. Conspiracy is a more technical term for this offense. The act of two or more who combine together to do any damage or injury to another, to do any unlawful act. Starting in October of 1777, Congress came in with the Articles of Confederation. Article 12, let me get to it. It says, all bills of credit emitted, monies borrowed, and debts contracted by or under the authority of Congress before the Assembly of the United States in pursuance of the present Confederation shall be deemed and considered as a charge against the United States, for payment and satisfaction whereof the said United States and the public faith are hereby solemnly pledged. They have pledged and charged you to offset congressional bankruptcy. This is further evidenced in 28 U.S.C. 453 Oaths of Justices and Judges. Each justice or judge of the United States shall take the following oath or affirmation before performing the duties of his office. I, blank, do solemnly swear or affirm that I will administer justice with all respect to persons, and to do equal right to the poor and to the rich, and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge, and perform all the duties incumbent upon me as blank under the Constitution and laws of the United States, so help me God. They're offsetting congressional bankruptcy by throwing you under the bus during the court process. The 1929 Geneva Convention maintains you as a prisoner of war. You are being held as prisoner of war under corporate policy to offset congressional bankruptcy. Article 28, starting at Article 28, you will find that officers, law enforcement officers, court officers are prisoners of war as well. They are held as prisoners of war. Agents and FBI, CIA are not prisoners of war. Law enforcement officials are told to maintain policy. Mommy, it hurt. Tragic last words of Down syndrome man 26 who died in handcuffs on the floor after he refused to leave a movie theater. A movie theater. He was murdered because he was being a detriment to commerce. The definition of bank: a bench or seat, the bench or tribunal occupied by the judges, the seat of judgment, a court.
Welcome to Scottish Sovereigns on the Land and the home of No Borders Radio.
And we're back. I'd like to go right into the convention between the United States of America and other powers relating to prisoners of war, July 27, 1929. Article 2. Prisoners of war are in the power of the hostile power, but not of the individual or corps who have captured them. They must at all times be humanely treated and protected, particularly against acts of violence, insults, and public curiosity. Measures of reprisal against them are prohibited. To realize the insurance aspect of this schematic, we go to Black's Law, first edition, to the word bottomry. In maritime law, a contract in the nature of a mortgage by which the owner of a ship borrows money for the use, equipment, or repair of the vessel. Let's stop there, shall we? One must realize that the vessel is a human being, and the use, equipment, or repair is contained in the International Classification of Diseases and Disorders. Okay? And I'll read on. And for a definite term, and pledges the ship, or the keel or bottom of the ship, pars pro toto, as a security for its repayment. The bottom of this vessel is the baby's foot, which is then sealed with a state seal to claim it as their own. The birth record is a manufacturer's statement of origin, maintaining that that ship belongs to them, and they're going to maintain loans on this vessel in order to repair it, because and to repair it, it has to be diagnosed. Let's go to ICD 10. Here we have the newest revised version, the International Statistical Classification of Diseases and Related Health Problems, 10th revision. Chapter 15, Pregnancy, Childbirth, and the Puerperium. Delivery is 080 through 084. Okay, now one of the diagnoses is spontaneous vertex delivery, spontaneous breech delivery, other single spontaneous delivery unspecified. So that means that it's just a birth. We're being diagnosed as injured now. Here's the diagnosis. Here's the way that they're cashing in and maintaining their original loans on the vessel. You also have 81, single delivery by forceps, 82, single delivery by cesarean section, 83, other assisted single delivery, and 84, multiple deliveries. So every aspect of a child being born or birthed or docked on the land, which they're claiming, maintains those loans. And those loans are for the repair now because they're diagnosed as injured. This is human trafficking, and I'll read again. Bottomry. In maritime law, a contract in the nature of a mortgage, a dead pledge, by which the owner of a ship borrows money for the use, equipment, or repair of the vessel, and for a definite term, and pledges the ship or the keel or bottom of the ship, pars pro toto, as a security for its repayment, with maritime or extraordinary interest on account of the marine risks to be borne by the lender, it being stipulated that if the ship be lost in the course of the specified voyage or during the limited time by any of the perils enumerated in the contract, the lender shall also lose his money. This brings us to the forgiveness and the executor docs. Now what this is you are removing that franchise from their ability to ever trick it out again, or for that franchise to be a prostitute on behalf of the federal government, the Confederated State. From Black's Law for Sedition, Confederacy. In criminal law, the association or banding together two or more persons for the purpose of committing an act or furthering an enterprise which is forbidden by law, or which, though lawful in itself, becomes unlawful when made the object of the confederacy. Conspiracy is a more technical term for this offense. The act of two or more who combine together to do any damage or injury to another, or to do any unlawful act. These babies are being diagnosed as injured to repair the ship, the vessel, by the federal government, passed down through the national state. This is a money-making revenue scheme. This is a conspiracy. This is absolute criminal on its face. Now, in international law, confederacy. A league or agreement between two or more independent states whereby they unite for their mutual welfare and the furtherance of their common aims. Scheming, conspiracy. The term may apply to a union so formed for a temporary or limited purpose, as in the case of an offensive and defensive alliance, but it is more commonly used to denote that species of political connection between two or more independent states by which a central government is created, invested with certain powers of sovereignty, mostly external, and acting upon the several component states as its units, which, however, retain their sovereign powers for domestic purposes and some others. See federal government. It is written right there. Congress has had global governance for a very long time. They are the new world order. The federal government is the new world order. Human trafficking, you and I, and all of our babies, by which to generate revenue. This brings us to the Covenant of the League of Nations, including amendments adopted to December 1924. The first line. The high contracting parties. They are tricking out your vessel, aren't they? They're high contracting, they're on the high seas, they're contracting with each other. And remember the state, 1924, because this is a posture leading up to 1933 bankruptcy, which facilitated the ability to hold you and your children as prisoners of war by the 1929 Geneva Convention. Breaking news from Revolution Radio on freedomslips.com. Another child is murdered by Child Protective Services in Texas. This family had been under investigation. Dad was deployed at the time. He was doing air services and airman in the military. Now, what's going on is the reason that this is getting the attention of mainstream media at this time is because of a relationship with a CPS supervisor between Dad now that this has occurred. Now, Mom murdered this child with the help of CPS. So CPS facilitates the murder of children under their watchful eyes. Then, as good soldiers employing low-intensity conflict, a female under their employ engages a victim father in a relationship, of course, to cast blame only on the mother perpetrator, rather than opening his eyes to the game. I wonder if the sheep will even get this, or if they're going to continue believing that child protection actually protects children. Nancy Schaefer, former U.S. Senator, my sister, was murdered after she exposed child protection predation services for what it really is. Bill Bowen, my brother, died after his documentary, Innocence Destroyed, you can find that on YouTube, was published as well. How many more until the sheep will wake up and realize there are predators and pedophiles holding children hostage, captive through legal mechanism by which to prey on them? Stay tuned for more on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. No need to expect us, we're already here.
Welcome to Scottish Sovereigns on the Land and the home of No Borders Radio.
And we're back, and I'd like to start with United States Code, Title 28, Judiciary and Judicial Procedure. First of all, the International Court of Justice, formerly the World Court, is always and has always been under congressional rule. Which brings us to ArabTJ.org, the Transitional Justice in the Arab World. This report is entitled Enforced Disappearance in Syria. This is a written statement submitted by the Damascus Center for Human Rights Studies, DCHRS, and the Cairo Institute for Human Rights Studies, CIHRS, a non-governmental organization in special consultative status. Now, let's stop here, because NGOs are still federally funded. They just call themselves non-governmental, but they still are federally funded. That is Congress. This is from Dr. Radwan Zayeda, Human Rights Council 9th Session. 1. Syria first witnessed enforced disappearances in the early 1980s, a decade that saw the most flagrant violation of human rights in Syria. Executions after unfair trials were rampant. Now everybody needs to wrap their head around this. This is the Congress. This is Congress's courts. These are congressional maintained trials to offset congressional bankruptcy by using human beings as human fodder. This is going to end now. This is ridiculous. The number of human rights activists in Syria and international organizations who were disappeared is estimated to be more than 17,000 to this date. Their status is unknown, and their families still do not know if they are dead or alive. This phenomena goes back to the end of the 1970s, when the Syrian government used the Syrian army and armed forces to curb the political violence that erupted between 1979 and 1982. Huge numbers of civilians were pushed into conflict with the armed opposition. That was maintained by Congress. This era saw such massacres as that in the city of Homa, reportedly, an approximate figure of 7,000 persons are still missing since then. The practice of enforced disappearance remains one of the ongoing violations, especially under the state of emergency, which has been in place for more than 40 years. Now that's all a show. Those are under federal emergency management acts. They are making you disappear. They are killing your kids. They are killing you. And then they implicate these programs to protect you against themselves while they pocket the money and continue to kill you, kill your children, and raise your communities. Bottom line, you can either stand up now or you can keep burying your head in the sand and hoping that this goes away. You are the authority. You need to stand as the authority. Congress, your representation is representing you into an early grave, into the medical industry, into the criminal industry, into the psychological industry. This is a perpetual raising. This is you they're raising. This is I. This is your brother and sister. And it's all at the behest of Congress to offset their bankruptcies, to maintain really fat attorney pockets, while you are being slaughtered left and right every day. Here's a report from Reuters.com today. Syria gas kills hundreds. Security Council meets. Now, Congress has maintained the National Security Council that maintains that depopulation is the highest priority of U.S. Inc.'s foreign policy. This is what it does. So it's going to investigate itself, and it's going to come back with some results. A fall guy is going to be maintained, like Saddam Hussein or somebody else. They're going to kill him, and they're going to continue to murder and slaughter human beings across the globe until they are held accountable. You have been absolutely denaturized and dehumanized from each other. These are your babies. These are my babies that they're slaughtering. I don't care what the name of the culture is or the name of the freaking country. This is human fodder. This is genocide perpetrated by Congress and attorneys behind Congress. Earlier, we defined the Confederacy and the criminal conspiracy that it maintains. The American Civil Liberties Union is a confederacy. It's a temporary union maintained by Congress. Again, on the ACLU.org website today, ACLU launches nationwide investigation into the police use of military technology and tactics. This is Congress directing this. Now they're saying, let's tell the sheeple something else. We're investigating. We're trying to stop this crap. They're the ones directing it. Get your heads out of your rear ends and wake up now, because this is happening in your own countries, or what you believe is a country. They are killing you. They are using law enforcement to do so across the globe. This is not secular to the United States Incorporated or the United States of America, which is the actions of Congress. It's a style. This is everywhere. This is humanity. And you're about to go extinct. And the psychopath is going to be the one running the show, as they have been for years and years and years and years, unless you stand up and self-govern. Stop accepting their benefits. Stop accepting rights sold to you after they steal your rights and your inheritance and everything else. This is so important for you to wrap your mind around. I know it's painful. I've been there. I've been doing this for so long now. I'm tired. Everybody else needs to realize, stand up, and stand up now as one. We are the United States, lowercase u, lowercase s, of being. That's what Jesus was trying to explain. I am. You just are. Stop accepting all those concepts and titles, because they're selling you the rights to come with them. They're selling you the benefits to come with them. But they're stealing you, the human being, in order to do so via the law merchant, the negotiable instrument acts, the uniform commercial code. You are the commercial product that is referring to. From Reuters.com, toddler survives smallpox vaccine reaction. Now, we don't have smallpox anymore. Now, I want you to really listen carefully. A 2-year-old boy who developed a serious reaction to his father's smallpox vaccination has recovered, but disease detectives found infectious virus all over his house, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention reported on Thursday. The Indiana toddler developed a rare rash known as eczema vaccinatum after playing with his father, a soldier vaccinated for deployment in Iraq. Okay, now they're killing your kids. They're killing you, and they're bringing smallpox back so that they can redistribute your families. Now, how much money did they just make on diagnosis of that baby? How much? How much through insurance? How much is enough for you until you stand up and realize this is you and yours? Now, here's another good one. The Department of Justice. Justice Department announces charges filed against 2 derivatives traders in connection with multi-billion-dollar trading loss at J.P. Morgan Chase & Company. A bank is the court. The judiciary is over the Department of Justice. The judiciary are the banks. The Department of Justice, which is under the judiciary, is suing the banks. Now, what this means is they're cashing in on this. They're going to pocket those monies after they find each other and slap each other on the hand. And you think they're protecting you. They're raising you to the ground. They're burning everything to the ground. Get up. Stand up. On August 7th, the Department of Justice filed civil charges against Bank of America. Again, this is the judiciary. They're slapping each other's hands. They're making you feel real comfortable as sheeple. All they're doing is cashing in on this. They're not doing anything for you. They're laughing all the way to the quote bank, which is under Title 28 USC, which is the judiciary. Let me read you the definition out of Black's Law Dictionary, first edition, regarding bank. Bank, a bench or seat. The bench or tribunal occupied by the judges. The seat of judgment, a court. The full bench or forecourt, the assembly of all the judges of a court. A sitting-in bank is a meeting of all the judges of a court, usually for the purpose of hearing arguments on demurrers, points reserved motion for new trials, etc., is distinguished from the sitting of a single judge at the assizes or at nisi prius and from trials at bar. But in this sense, bank bank is a more usual form of the word. Number 2, an institution of great value in the commercial world, empowered to receive deposits of money, to make loans, and to issue its promissory notes, designed to circulate as money and commonly called bank notes or bank bills, or to perform any one of or more of these functions. So what is the International Court of Justice? That is a big, huge freaking bank. What is the Department of Justice? A ringer for the bank. Why are your babies getting smallpox and dying because they're eating school meals? Because the bank wants it. That's beneficial to the bank. Who's going to cash in again when the Justice Department announces charges filed against the traders in connection with multi-billion-dollar trading loss at J.P. Morgan? The bank. What is J.P. Morgan? Used to be a law firm. And then it was turned into a bank. All of this perverted wording, perverted dictionary uses, perverted education that they teach you to make sure you're never seeing whose hand is actually puppeting everything. This is Congress. Your transgressor, transgressing upon you and yours, and burning everything to the ground. And we're going to pause here so that I can play some voice recordings from an interview I did with Dave.
Okay, now what is this thing called? This thing is called the Ordinance of William I, separating the spiritual and the temporal courts. Okay, now what you're saying is that he separated
you and your body.
Your body from
soul.
The soul. Okay.
Now, there's 2 bishops. There's the Archbishop of Canterbury and the Archbishop of York.
Okay.
That is the House of Lords. The House of Lords is separated into the Lord's spiritual and the Lord's temporal.
Okay.
Okay, let me show you that one. Now, the Lord Spiritual of the United Kingdom, also called spiritual peers, are the 26 bishops of the established Church of England who serve in the House of Lords, along with the Lord's temporal. Okay? Now, when you look in blacks, House of Lords is the upper chamber of the British Parliament, of which the 11-member Judicial Committee provides judges who serve as the final court of appeal in most civil cases. In practice, the Lords sit as committees, usually of 5 but occasionally of 7. 2 committees may sit simultaneously. Okay? Now, what does this say? The House of Delegates. The body vested with the control and administration of the American Bar Association. Number 2, the lower chamber of the state legislature in Maryland, Virginia, and West Virginia. Okay?
And D.C. is a part of Maryland and Virginia.
Absolutely. Now, when you go all the way back to the Lord's spiritual and the Lord's temporal,
you see that it connects itself to D.C. through this right here,
absolutely.
through the, what is this called?
House of Delegates.
House of Delegates.
Now, and again, back to the Bible, you have delegated your authority to somebody else. That's what vesting power means. Power is always vested. It cannot be taken.
Right.
It has to be vested.
It has to be given.
Right.
Even in this matter through fraud and coercion and everything else.
Absolutely. Now look at your Constitution. You delegated your authority. You vested power in Congress under their transgression.
Yeah.
But then when you go back to the original Charter of Liberties and the Charter of Forests and Chases.
That's what you showed me last time.
Right.
Wait a minute, the Charter of Liberties and the Charter of what?
Right.
Forests and Chases.
Forest what?
Forests and Chases.
And Chases.
Remember? Charter of Liberties was handed out by Henry I of 1100. This is what they renewed when William Penn did the Charter of Liberty. Remember here? Establishing all of this Pennsylvania shit? All they did was they revisited it. Yeah, watch this. And I'll show you what an affiant statement is. Remember I tell everybody not to do an affidavit?
All right.
Beasts of the forest.
All right, definition.
Animals having privilege within the forest. Okay? also including red deer, hart, hind, roe deer until reign of Edward the Third, buck, doe, blah, blah, blah. But this is where you're defined. Animals having privilege within the forest. You know, you have rights and privileges, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay? This is where you're chased.
What's this?
Some authorities give different categorizations with roe deer as beasts of the forest and wolves and foxes as beasts of the chase. And it is probable that some animals were treated differently in different forests. See also venison, vermin of chase, blah, blah, blah. Now, affiant. The word affiant.
Animals having privilege within the forest. Now, that definition there, privilege, that's the same definition that you're saying that they carry all the way through to when they give us privileges.
Absolutely. And then it's revisited.
Okay, now how do you get there from that standpoint?
Hold on.
Okay.
I'll show you.
All right.
What does it say on USC Title 7, Section 136?
Animal. The term animal means all vertebrate and invertebrate species, including but not limited to man and other mammals, bird, fish, and shellfish. Okay, that made the connection. U.S. Code Title, what was that? U.S. Code Title 7, Section
136.
136. Okay, that connects it.
All right. And in the statute at large, it's again reiterated all over AMJUR and the statutes at large, where it just keeps calling us animals. We're just vermin. When you look at the first and second welfare theorem, we're pollution. We're not evolution. We're not devolving. We are pollution.
Yeah, you mentioned that too.
Many.
Many.
Everybody asks me why I don't like affidavits. Well, affiant.
Affiant.
Right.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so you're going to show me what the affiant actually is.
Well, what affiant is.
Oh, what affiant is. It's starting with the letter F. Okay. Affiant. F-Y-A-N-T-S. The excrement of a fox and other vermin.
Reported on by foresters.
Reported on by foresters.
Right. Now, when we enter into the incorporated state of liberty...
So that's a ferment.
Right. Affiant.
Affiant. So how do you get from affiant to affiant?
Right. You're accepting their authority. When you go in and you speak something out of your mouth, declare something out of your mouth, you're appearing in front of the judge. You're granting them jurisdictional ability in the forest. And you're claiming that authority over you within the forest.
Well, okay, I know how to, the joinder thing, right. I mean, I understood that before, but how do you get from affiant to affidavit?
Well, that's what that is. It's excrement of you. They consider it excrement. They don't hear anything. You're dead.
That's true. Yeah, I know they don't hear it. That's true. I know they can't hear it. That's true. Because if you were actually there living, they would all get up and walk out because they wouldn't be able to do anything.
Right. The court's nullified because if the living is there, there's no fiction of law. If the truth is known, then there's no fiction of law. The reason we're entering into liberty... See the definition of liberty?
Yeah, definition of liberty under force and chases. Also known as franchise, the exemption by royal decree from general provisions or regulations, whether judicial, commercial,
or ecclesiastical, by which powers could be exercised and appointments made locally, e.g. within manors, which is your house, by lords, burgesses, clerics, or corporations, or regionally, e.g. within honors, which in the forgiveness doc, you're coming into dignity.
Right.
You're only claiming you are dignity. Exemption might also be claimed as a prescription, i.e. existing from time memorial, which is what we're doing.
Yeah, you did.
Be living.
Yep, you explained that. Yep, before in the document. That's right. Okay.
Here's the actual charter.
The actual charter of force and chases.
Yeah. You also want to do the Charter of Liberties too. Didn't I pull that one up already? I did. That's the original. And then you want to look at William Penn's as well.
Charter of Liberties of Henry I, 1100.
First, Henry formally bound himself to the law, setting the stage for the rule of law the parliaments and parliamentarians of later ages would cry for. Second, it reads almost exactly like the Magna Carta, because the Magna Carta is seen die. Our Constitution is the Magna Carta seen die. Without a day, without a death, it just keeps moving. The only thing in politics, the political stage or ism, it only changes according to market conditions. You are the commercial unit. So if you hold the majority of the wealth as a male, they're going to implicate feminism against you.
Okay, so how does the Magna Carta become without a day?
I don't know how else to explain it. Politics only changes according to market conditions.
Okay, and the Magna Carta is a document of politics?
Right.
But
at that time, it separated the powers, enumerated powers, right?
Okay.
Well, what happened was, at that time, the wealth was spread across the board, right? So in order to separate a power, they were redistributing that power. They were going against that power. Well, then, later on, when we came here, all there was in the United States at that time, or the ground that was here, where the United States of America is, the ground was only community. Okay? To redistribute community, they have to implicate the individual by constitutional theory. Okay? Take away the community's rights by reserving your rights over theirs.
Okay, that's right.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, then you move along. Market conditions change when the male holds the majority of the wealth, and so you have to redistribute him by reserving the female's rights over his. That's feminism. Okay? When the white male holds the majority of the wealth and the off-color anybody does not. They reserve the rights of the off-color within racism, that's a political tool, to redistribute the white male. Okay, and it goes along. If the corporations hold the majority of the wealth, which is what's happening now, they implement what? Environmentalism to redistribute the corporations. So now they're saying, well, Walmart here, you're polluting this much land, well, we're going to fine you. And they're saying, no, I'm not doing anything wrong. And the attorneys come in and they say, yes, you are. Here's the summons. You appear into court. This is what I'm fining you with. Where did those fines go? Environmentalism is to protect you and the rest of the environment. The attorneys are pocketing that money. Carbon credits, everything else. The attorneys are pocketing those. How are they helping the environment? Bottling sunlight? That's what Gore was doing, right? You know, it's so ridiculous. It's right there in front of you. The FAA, the EPA, all of these things, SEC, FDIC's insurance is supposed to be protecting you, right? Now, if an airline does something wrong and they're fined for harming you or a group of you, what happens? They get fined. Where do those fines go? Who's making money off of what's happening to you? The EPA is the same. Where did those fines go? Did it help rebuild the environment? Absolutely not. There's nothing there. It's just the attorney pocketing these monies. And those are the market conditions. If the corporations hold the majority of the wealth, environmentalism is employed. If the Jews hold all the wealth, Catholicism is employed. If the Zionists hold all the wealth, Islamism is employed. If there's so much money in Islam, which they're doing now, Zionism is employed against them. And the UN is responsible for that. So they're going in and they're raising the homes all across the Islamic nations is what's happening.
Saying you're not up to code.
Right, and they're blaming the Jew. So here's all these Islamics, they're blaming the Jew again, Zionism. But it's the UN doing this. It's the attorneys.
It's the attorneys doing it.
It's always been the attorneys. It's always been the pharaohs of the sea. Pharisee.
So seen die meaning without a day means that the document
moves.
can just change and move however it feels like?
Yes. And that's what I was trying to explain with the bill earlier when we were still at the other place.
That you said there's 9 parts to a bill.
Right.
Okay.
You got to look at this because once you read it, you're going to get it. Because the bill changes by the address to, not the address, like your address. You think that it means a physical thing, an address. No. It's an address to, a verbal declaration, an address. Okay. So when the president comes in and he does the address to Congress or an address to the Senate, he's verbally pointing at them and saying, now you are the ones that hold them attaint.
Hold that bill of attainder.
That hold the bill of attainder of whoever they're notating in that bill of address. Nobody ever pays attention to those things. What's an inaugural address?
Inaugurating.
That is changing the bill of attainder.
To what?
To whatever they want it to be. That's how they're picking you up.
Just every time?
Every single time. The president does this address to the holder of the Great Seal.
And is he changing the delegation of authority then?
Yes,
at that
in
point?
each address. Read the 9 parts of the bill. It's addressed to the holder of the seal.
The address to the holder of the seal. So the holder of the seal is who?
Whoever. Whoever, because Congress has a seal, the Queen has a seal, everybody has a seal except for you until now.
That's why your seal's so important.
It's absolutely important because that seal, they cannot do anything with it. You have to have your seal. Now you're the holder of the Great Seal, and you are your own house.
That's what Kennedy was referring to about becoming the master of your own house.
Right. You have to be in your own house. You can no longer be in the House of Delegates. You can no longer be in the House of Lords or the House of Representatives. And with the Charter, Atlantic Charter, the House of Representatives got global governance. It's not the New World Order coming. It already is, and it always has been. Each house, each charter designates the house that has global governance. It always has.
Okay.
There was a House of Lombardy, House of Versu, House of Galm. You have the Magna Carta, which is the House of Italy. That means big charter. Magna Carta, big charter. That was the House of Italy.
Well, how does the House of Italy get into all the barons in England and take King John down to the Thames and threaten to cut his head off?
It's all of it. It's just the House. Whoever has the global governance is the House. Now you do. You have to rise up and be in your house. Use that seal. You know, you're not just taking back your physical land property. You're taking back your soul and everything that's of your domain. Domain means of mine. Period. And now you're obliterating their use of any other seal to alter yours. A notary seal, another private seal.
Where it always gets defunct by them counter-deeding your will.
Absolutely. And now they can't do that because we're using their laws against them. 18 U.S.C. 1506. We're saying, no, you cannot alter, obliterate, omit, or avoid the public record. You're going to stop doing
Right,
that.
because it has to, they can't mess with the public record.
Absolutely.
Under no circumstances.
But nobody's ever held them accountable for that.
Well,
But
that was something that I knew a while back. I'm like, every single time. And then somebody said to me, no, they're not obliterating it because none of the stuff they do is on public record.
Right. It's all, because it counters it.
And then I explained that to someone else, and they said, well, no, of course it has to be on public record. I said, no, when you ask for a transcript, it says, this is a, what is it?
Certified, whatever it is.
Yeah, it's a copy of a transcript or something like that.
Right.
It's not an actual because no actual transcripts exist, because if it was in public law,
admit it onto court record.
Right, until it was actually in public law,
Right.
that is there actually a true record of it. Other than that, nothing else exists.
And that's when they're shooting themselves, because we're admitting the transcripts onto court record as evidence.
Right.
And now they're being held accountable.
Right.
But they can't before that. You're in an administrative process. It's an Article 4 court that you're consenting to just by submitting to the authority. By answering their summons. But the 9 parts of a bill, you can see now, read the definition, because that's the most amazing thing.
Okay, Bill. And this is Black's, you said Black 7th edition Deluxe. Okay.
The distinction between sovereignty and a foreign state.
Right, is using private acts and commerce and acts of commerce instead of public law.
Right. And 18 U.S.C. 1506 is a public law. Do not alter the record. I'm not arguing that you're injuring a stop sign or you're injuring a curtain or injuring a wall.
Right.
That's a harm. You're removing something off of the record that could obliterate a future order.
And you're not allowed to do that because this is public law. This is on record.
Absolutely.
Actually being on court record.
Right.
Because, nothing else that they do is ever on court record.
Right.
And I think I've just started to kind of get that idea through some people's head. But it's really difficult for them, especially the people that have fought their entire lives in this system. And then you hit them with the fact that nothing you've ever done is relevant, and nothing that you have ever done is on the record. And they go, what?
And they've learned so much. I've had so many people fight with me because they've been through years and years and years and years of all this statutory bullshit, case law, and common law. I'm like, when I simplify, they get pissed off at me. It makes, it's like a balloon deflating because That's years and years and years of their life that they've stuck into this.
But if you're not willing to change your mind, if you're not willing to keep your mind open about what the truth is, then good luck to you, because it's not going to work. The letters patent of King Henry VII granted unto John Cabot and his 3 sons, Louis, Sebastian, and Santius, for the discovery of new and unknown lands.
So here's how they first started invoking, one of the ways that they first started invoking the patent.
You being the land.
Right.
Because when they said new and unknown lands, they're talking about the actual body. You, the body, is the land.
You can never ever patent an old thing.
Yeah, you can never patent the actual physical earth. That's right.
And you're only known when you're conceived. That's a conception. When you are conceived or with thought, then you're known.
Oh, crap. Yeah, good point.
We have given and granted to them their heirs and deputies, that all the firm lands, isles, villages, towns, castles, and places whatsoever that they be, that they shall chance to find, may not of any other of our subjects be frequented or visited without the license of the aforesaid John and his sons and their deputies under pay of forfeiture. So the way that you forfeited land was you bought it back from them and entered into the borrower's covenant. That was yours. You acknowledged that they had a patent on it when you bought it from them.
That's in all these documents from all the mortgages.
When you mortgage something, it's already yours. You've acknowledged their authority by buying it and entering into contract to buy your own land.
Because they can't patent the land.
Right.
You're just stating that, yep, you had authority to keep it.
Right.
What was that part specifically in there? I mean, the part that you just read, does that go back to the idea that...
See, they're heirs and deputies. The term now they use after they adopted statute and adopted the United States Incorporated is successor. A successor is not an heir. A successor can be another corporation that takes over one corporation, or a corporation under, or another franchise under another franchise under another franchise. Those are successors. Okay. You can't be a successor. You're the heir.
What was this defining in there, as far as that goes?
The succession. I mean, we give you everything, whatever you find, and it comes down to your heirs. And that's where the Capetian dynasty comes in again.
So basically what that little thing did was just saying, hey, whatever people you go out there and you find, meaning the lands, that's what they're referring to.
Right.
That, his sons could do what with? Whatever they felt like, for the most part?
Right. Forever and ever and ever and ever.
Alright, Capetian dynasty.
Well, this is funny. They won't let me.
So you had France, Spain, and Duke Henry of Luxembourg, Germany are members of the Capetian dynasty. You know, it keeps on coming down to the same people over and over and over again. Current
Capetian pretenders. Duke of Anjou, Louis.
Now you have to really pay attention to these. The pretender to Brazil since 2007. If you look at the UN...
what does it mean to pretender?
Pretender. Before it's tender.
Before it's tendered?
Right. Pretender. It can't be money. It's always before money, but you're always negotiable. You are always money or a negotiable instrument.
The fee, yeah.
And they're always pretender.
Oh, that's why it says the pretender.
Right. They can never be tender, but you can be tender because you're never a pretender.
Is that something that you become when you actually become master of your own house? Do you then become a pretender?
You're no longer even because that's also a delegated authority too. A pretender is something maintained by somebody else.
Under that house?
Right. Capetian.
Okay. Under the Capetian house, okay.
Right. Okay, so we'll start with the Charter of Ursu, 44 BC. There's a charter, okay? This is an agreement. I want this. We're going to take this and have our way with it.
Charter of Ursu, that's URSO, okay.
44 BC, or so they state.
44 BC. Okay.
Now, after the original charter, they take the land. They have to implicate a constitution.
Now, who did that? Where is this? Where was this done? The Charter of Usu. Where was it around? I mean, like location.
The time is perverted.
Not so much the time, but like who did this? Was this Greece? What was this?
Well, they're calling it Gentiva, which is Geneva. This is by Julius Caesar.
Okay, drafted and outlined by Julius Caesar.
Right.
Okay.
Mark Antony had this document, marginal comments and all, along with other papers, enacted into law. It's from these. Okay, this history accounts for repetitions, redundant phrases, disorderly arrangement, and general lack of Phoenician law as it has descended to us. So here they're trying to tell you that don't worry about the time frames, because like here, when is this written? 44 BC. Okay, how many years did Jesus live?
Well, certainly.
They said 35, right? About 35 years.
Okay.
Okay, so at this point, this is before Christ, and you have Julius Caesar being spoken of in the Bible. When Jesus is walking around and they said, should we pay homage to Caesar? And he says, show me a penny, remember?
Right.
Render unto Caesar what is Caesar's and unto God what is God's.
And supposedly Caesar came,
with Jesus. Okay, so here you have 44 BC, and then it says, this history accounts for repetitions, redundant phrases, disorderly arrangement, and general lack of finish in the law as it has descended to us. So here they're saying, don't look at the guy behind the curtain. Okay? Don't worry about that guy over there. Just don't pay attention,
Right.
And this is what people, that when they first start reading these, it's really, really hard to untwist these things in the mind. They have to realize that time is not linear. It's not supposed to be linear. It never has been. Physics, of all things, energy is here. We're beginning and ending at the same time. Don't look at the dates, because then it's just going to pervert everything.
Well, okay. Let's just then look at the information of what they're saying.
Right. So basically, the Charter of Usu says, we've come onto this land, I'm going to take it. I agree with you. A charter is, I hand you one half of it, you hand me one half, we rip it apart, that's our receipt, there, we're taking this shit.
No?
Okay.
Okay. Like you said before, just like something, it just happened.
Right.
Right.
So,
what's the U.S. code again?
okay, so what we're talking about is the ability of you posting your own bonds. Okay? Each time you take something out of the mail, you're using and assuming the fiction,
That title, yeah.
the title, and you're being held at taint and charged as a felon
Every time that you do that.
every single time you're posting your own bond, and you're generating revenue for the United States Incorporated. Title 18 USC subsection 1342 is fictitious name or address. Whoever, for the purpose of conducting, promoting, or carrying on by means of the Postal Service any scheme or device mentioned in Section 1341 of this title, or any other unlawful business, uses or assumes or requests to be addressed by any fictitious, false, or assumed title, name, or address, or name other than his own proper name,
Which is the first and
middle,
Yep.
It's not the common name, or takes or receives from any post office or authorized depository of mail matter any letter, postal card, package, or other mail matter addressed to any such fictitious, false, or assumed title, name, or address, or name other than his own proper name, shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 5 years, or both. Now, what we've done is we now notify anybody who's sending us articles of mail in through the Postal Service that they are not to address us by the common name. The common name is the one that the Crown owns. The Crown owns your last name. Okay, they have a patent on it until you do the patent infringement. This is working. When, we'll say Bo, when he used the document that he and I prepared, sent it into the utility companies, and told them that they can only address him by his first and middle name, as per 18 USC 1342.
which you state in the document itself when
Right.
you send it.
Right.
Basically, did you quote the whole section there in the
Yes.
document? Okay, so you
Yes.
gave them the whole thing right there. Here
We
it
gave
is.
them the whole thing.
So
and
they
it
can
was,
read it themselves. All right.
Now, let me read the second one to you, though. You didn't read. I did my second one on my own here.
Right.
Let's see. Again.
They sent him, we have to back up. What happened was Bo had done this and noticed them, and then they had sent him again a half-assed version of the modification. So tell him about the half-assed version.
Had one that put the proper name in all caps, and then the street address, and then care of temporary post location below that,
Right.
and just different,
That wasn't quite there, you said, yeah.
Right.
It just didn't quite get there.
Right.
I can't remember all the individuals, but like this one was my follow up to AEP. Then I said USPS records show certified mail number was received by your corporation on August 17th, which constitutes proper notice. Copy is provided for your reference. Your records were not accurately changed. This is an opportunity to make the change accurately. Please modify to the proper name, upper and lowercase letters, rather than the all caps.
Right.
As record number, and I again pointed out to the forgiveness doc.
For the forgiveness doc number that you've got on file, okay.
Mm-hmm. And be sure to include temporary post location on line 2, care of 19401.
Yep. So on
And
and so
the
forth.
address,
Right.
the street
I
address.
just spelled it out for him,
You addressed
so
this,
there's
yep.
no mistake now.
Right. Now, since that time, you have received no utility bills whatsoever, and right now I'm sitting here and all of the lights are on, the gas is on, everything's still on, and yet they have not sent you a bill. So I don't think that they have that ability without being sued. I don't know.
Right, and without violation of the code,
1342, right.
of 1342.
And 1341. Whoever having devised or intending to devise any scheme or artifice to defraud or for obtaining money or property by means of false or fraudulent pretenses, representations, or promises, or to sell, dispose of, loan, exchange, alter, give away, distribute, supply, or furnish or procure for unlawful use any counterfeit or spurious coin, obligation, security, or other article or anything represented to be or intimated or held out to be such counterfeit or spurious article for the purposes of executing such scheme or artifice or attempting to do so, places in any post office or authorized depository for mail matter, any matter or thing, whatever to be sent or delivered by the Postal Service, or deposits or causes to be deposited, any matter or thing, whatever to be sent or delivered by any private or commercial interstate carrier, or takes or receives therefrom any such matter or thing, or knowingly causes to be delivered by mail or such carrier according to the direction thereon, or at the place at which it is directed to be delivered by the person to whom it is addressed, any such matter or thing shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 20 years or both.
Now, what about every single time that they send you something from their quote-unquote courts that has the wrong name on it?
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
That's what I thought the
Right.
second you read that.
Now, he's put them on notice.
The court too?
And I don't know who all he put him on notice to, but right now he's in the middle of a court process, so we have to maintain right now to get the children out of the system first.
Okay.
But this thing, when he put them on notice, now if they try to make money, they're asking for money when they do this. That is a fraud and swindle. They have been noticed of 1342.
Exactly.
So I do not think that they can bill him. And I also don't believe that they can shut off his utilities because they can no longer collect. It is unlawful for them to collect money through the Postal Service. Now tell me how they're going to do this. They cannot. I do not believe that they can do anything any further.
Now, how do you think the scenario is that they can't shut off utility?
Because they can never. Okay, if he has it shut off.
I mean, I understand what we were talking about before, about that you own it, you created the infrastructure.
Right. Say he has it shut off. If he mails them anything, what is a corporation?
A fiction of law.
Okay, so if somebody receives something and accepts something or uses or assumes something in the mail on that side, what are they doing? They're now the felon under 18 U.S.C. 1342.
Okay.
So it goes both ways.
Okay.
So now how did anything happen? Commerce cannot happen. They're always violating this law unless they're talking to us as the proper name, and they are a proper name.
Yeah, that's right. They have to be some sort of proper name too.
Right. They can't be a fiction.
They can't be a fiction.
No.
Which is funny.
It's hilarious because we're using their law right up against them now. Now try to wiggle out of that. They can't wiggle out of it. To wiggle out, they have to nullify their laws.
And to also, and I'm sure there's also law stating that they have to send you a notice that you're going to cut off your electricity.
Right.
Which they can no longer do.
Right.
Because you've given them notice.
Yes. And they're
so they can't even notice you back.
No, they're always extorting money. They're always wanting money. If they send you a notice that says if you don't pay this, they're in violation of 18 U.S.C. 1342.
Right, sure. That makes sense. Sure.
Right.
That's a got them type scenario.
And he didn't ask for money. When he noticed them, he noticed the fiction. They assumed
do not send anything by this name.
And he never, ever facilitated a schematic to extort money or anything other. He just put them on notice. They can no longer send him mail. They can't send him a notice. They can't ask for any money through the mail. That's mail fraud.
Right.
So is the IRS in mail fraud.
Sure.
Anytime you get a foreclosure notice, they're committing mail fraud. They're committing all of this under 18 U.S.C. 1342, 18 U.S.C. 1341.
Any collection of anything from anywhere, including notices from the court to come to court.
Right. This would supersede the Debt Collection Act. It's everything.
It would supersede the debt collection. Oh, yeah, sure, right. Of course.
They're asking for money.
Right, yeah,
through the mail.
Yeah, through the mail.
To the fiction. As a fiction. They're assuming and they're asking us to address them as a fiction. That's in violation of 18 U.S.C. 1342.
The only way they could possibly do anything would be...
This is the only way that they're holding you a taint.
Yeah.
You're violating this by accepting and using and assuming the fiction.
Yeah,
and so
assuming the title.
Right? You're always held at a taint. Now they have to either obliterate this law or adhere to it on the other side, whereby they become the dead thing.
Yeah.
Always.
Sure.
But that's my whole process. Each and every time that I file anything, there's no loopholes in it. It goes front to back and then back to front. So no matter what, to argue my process, they have to argue that that law exists. To argue the whole process, they have to argue that the ability of charter is obliterated. It no longer exists. It has the double function. It always has the same end and the same beginning.
Because you'd be saying that the charters of which they've stated the stuff on can't exist.
Right, they can't exist. That's the only way for them to get out of this. And if they nullify their original charters, they don't own anything.
Right, everything's
done
anyway. Yeah.
Right.
Which they should do anyway, because it was illegitimate to begin with.
Right. But for now, because they want the benefit, they want the revenue, they don't want to fail.
Right.
They're going to have to cannibalize each other. Unless they want to admit that the charter ability does not exist. And at that time, they don't own anything anyway. It's mine.
Ab initio.
Yeah, I am.
Or from inception, as you like to say.
Right.
Yeah.
Remember, as a fiction? So they're already in violation because you put them on notice. That's with knowledge. Every time they send you something from their corporation, you can charge them under 18 U.S.C. 1342. On their envelope, they're asking you to address them as a fiction. Read that again, the 18 U.S.C. 1342.
Asking them to address you as a fiction.
No, because it comes in the name of a fiction from corporation, whatever.
Right, they're a fiction.
So the only way you can answer them is to address them as a fiction. They're asking you to address them as a fiction. That's also a violation. And all he did was he noticed them. Which is beautiful. Anyway, his lights are still on.
What lights?
Exactly.
These lights, they're still on.
Electricity's
your
still on.
electricity and your gas.
Oh, right.
I don't think they can.
What was this was the second one, right?
Yeah.
The first one, what was the first one? The part that in the beginning, the note, yeah, to whom it may concern. Okay, yeah.
Right, regarding account number.
That's what we should have put right on the
And I
heading
just
in the
used the
beginning.
name as they used it, as it is in their records. If,
Right.
If it was without the M or not.
Please modify to the proper name, just first and middle, rather than, and that's first and middle in upper and lowercase, rather than first, middle initial, and last name in all capital
That's
letters.
because that's how the mail was coming to me.
Okay, so you just stated it on the notice as you were getting mail coming
Right.
to you, right?
It's a violation if you do this, so you're being put on notice.
Right.
And I'm no longer assuming that
I
name.
probably could have put at Alley or something on.
As record number
Right.
in brackets as record number, and that's the record number at the county register's office. Is that right?
Right. Show him your new ones. He saw these old ones. Where's your new ones without the hooker definition on there? No, when I went down there, she's like, "We've lost those." He says, "I need my originals back." "We've lost those." I said, "Isn't that fraud?" She's like, "No, that's not fraud. We lose stuff all the time." I said, "No, it's fraud."
Right.
I wonder what the Department of Justice would think of this. She says, "What?" I said, "You know, the Office of Inspector General for Fraud and Waste." And then all of a sudden she's like, "I remember him. I'm the one that handled his case. And I mailed those out last week." She suddenly remembered where the records were.
Right.
I thought it was so funny.
Okay, so now this is what they put on the top of it. This is their thing on the top here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Without
So-
this shit, right?
Yeah, without their stamp and
Right, they
stamp of
can't seal
approval
it.
on the top of it.
Right,
This is
because-
just specifically saying recorded as presented on the date and the time, so on and so forth. County recorder, the name of the county recorder.
Correct. Without the seal, because I had noticed them that they cannot alter or omit a record at all under
Right.
18 U.S.C. 1506.
And the only thing this says here is the record fee. They actually put down the amount
Right.
of exchange of worthless Federal Reserve notes that they took
Right.
for your service or
Right.
their service
Right.
of doing exactly what they should have done.
Right.
And then it says pages 1 and, page 1, because it's just one thing.
Yep. But see how they perverted it the first time before they were made aware that they were in
Yeah,
violation
because
of
you said
18 U.S.C.
you said they had him
1506.
right on the bottom. Record as is,
As per customer, I think.
record as is per customer, and then they made you put your name.
Right. And when you look up the word customer, it means hooker or prostitute.
Funny.
Well, but you got to dig into the entomology or something because it's not
Right.
evident in blacks, really.
Right.
Not everything is from blacks. You got to sometimes get into the entomology,
Right.
word construction.
And then on the bottom of this one, the one you did again, proper one, you just said record as per, and then your first and
Yep.
middle name, proper
Yep.
name, upper and lowercase. Okay.
Yeah.
Probably could have wrote as per I am
Right.
Kurt Martin, but
Right. Well, it says he's I am anyway in the third
Yeah,
paragraph.
right. Okay, now when you file that's the executor doc and the
Forgiveness doc.
doc.
You get the originals back.
You take it to them, and they make a copy of it,
A digital copy.
a digital
a
copy
photo.
for their record and a photo,
Yep.
and then
You get the originals back.
do you have to ask them for the originals back? Or
No,
they just,
they're required to give you.
they're
the originals
required to
back.
give you the originals back.
Right, because see, in the executor doc, if Senate has the originals, they can impeach the executor. Remember, they can impeach the executive office. They can only do that if they have the original document.
How does that end up working?
That was in the Constitution. Only the Senate can impeach.
Only the Senate can impeach
Right.
the
Like a
executive.
president,
Right.
they can only impeach a president. He's the executor office.
Of his own estate.
Right. Of everything.
Of everything.
Of everything. And so you want the originals back, and from there on forward, you only refer to the document recording number when you're putting anybody on notice. You do not give them the originals. Because
Right.
Senate does have the ability to impeach you as the executor if they have that original document.
Yeah, that's a piece of pertinent information that needs to go in the training manual. Most definitely. So, right, you're talking about plates.
Philip
You're talking about
Philip Earl. So Philip Earl goes down into Louisiana doing a job, and he hits some guy at a stop sign, He settles up with the guy. He says that he's responsible for the damage to his vehicle, blah, blah, blah. Police come because they're required to make their report. The guy calls him in. Philip Earl goes down to the police department, and of course, during this time, he's got his executor docs, he's got his forgiveness docs, everything else, and he's showing them he's only Philip Earl.
Does he keep those with him?
Yes.
Okay, so you always keep those with you.
Right.
Okay.
You always keep those with you, the originals, and nobody can confiscate those because they're public record and they're yours.
Okay.
Okay. So, as Philip Earl, they could not charge him. They said, we see here that Philip Earl Jonason has a warrant out for his arrest, $40,000 warrant out for his arrest and bond in Oceana County, Michigan. He said, I'm not Philip Earl Jonason, I'm only Philip Earl. Okay, they had to release him. What happened next is that he went back to Oceana County to get his equipment, and his freaking last name is written across the truck. Jonason.
Yeah, on the truck.
On the truck.
Nice.
So cops come out looking for Philip Earl Jonason. He says, I'm Philip Earl, I'm Philip Earl, I'm Philip Earl. Cop says, is that your truck? He says, yeah. He says, come with me. So he's still potted. But he consented by using the Crown's last name.
Because it was on his truck.
Right.
Splattered across his damn truck.
Right. But as long as you're not claiming that last name, let go of it. Don't claim the last name.
Right. So every time that anyone comes with a warrant and they say, are you so-and-so last name, you always say, no, I am just first and middle name. That's
your proper name.
Yeah,
if you claim or assume to be the fictional character, you can be held as a felon too.
Sure, they've got you. That was another thing. Is it truly, by definition, a first and middle name? Isn't it just your two given names? Isn't that what it's supposed to be? Because you don't have because I thought the first, middle, and last is how they describe that fictional name.
Yes, by commonality. That's your...
Right. Or wait,
it never
describe
started
that.
out being a family name. In blacks, it's called the familiar name.
Okay.
That's what they named you.
Okay.
Each time they gave us a last name, they designated us a new species of human.
Oh, crap, really?
Well, this is what you do. Smith, you're a blacksmith.
Oh, good point.
Johnson, Erickson.
Right.
They're just
son of so-and-so, son of this and that.
Right.
Interesting.
That was describing you. You're a new species at that time. That's how you're made secular and away from the one, or overall I am.
So how do you end up stating your house as the quote-unquote last name? I am the house of so-and-so.
You're the house of that.
Oh, you can have your house be anything then, you're saying.
Right.
You can just state your house as whatever the hell you want your house to be.
Right.
So it doesn't have to be...
No, but it should have something, not in commonality. It's just your house, which denotes almost a physical location. In order to do this, you have to have something of a physical location or something to stand on.
But it's just your body, right?
Right. And your house.
Well, and everything else, because
that's what your house is. That's what Jesus said. Your body is your temple. It's your house. That's the house of God. They perverted the house of God.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? When he turned it over the tables at the money changers, what did he say? You have turned my house into a den of thieves. They're inside of you, entering you into commerce by enfranchisement.
Right. Okay. Yep, I get it. Yeah, and that's so it doesn't really matter if you say first and middle name. That's still fine.
Right, that's the proper name. The proper name is as defined in blacks. You don't want the common name.
Okay. That's what I was trying to get to. The differences between the two definitions of the name. You have a common name, which is what they go after you.
Right.
That's your common name.
Right. Familiar. Not family.
Familiar.
It's commonly used.
Okay. And then the proper name is the one that we should be using.
Right.
That's our first and middle.
Right.
Okay.
Or I am. I mean, we...
Oh, yeah, you could just go I am, too. Right. Yeah, you don't have to... You have to state... You could... Yeah, who are you? I am.
Right. The minute...
Because as long as you have this document, you are I am.
You are I am.
And it's been filed, that's it.
Right. So. And in our natural state, prior to the intercession by law, by attorney, by judge, whatever else, We do not refer to each other.
Yeah.
Not one time when I'm speaking to you.
Do you continue to call me by a name every single time? Right.
Never ever. You're in my presence. I'm in your presence. We don't need to refer to each other. We already know we are.
Right.
They've taught us that we are not. Therefore, we need to earn the right to be. That's what the rights and privileges are. You have to earn the right to be this. Well, how? Well, you're not a good man. Well, why not? They're attacking you by morally attacking you.
Yeah,
okay?
Particularly that part in the that we read before with the William the First.
Right.
What? I forgot. What was there a name to that document?
Separation of the spiritual and the temporal. The ordinance of the separation of the spiritual and temporal.
Okay, the ordinance. Courts. The ordinance of the separation of the spiritual and temporal. Okay.
Courts.
Spiritual and temporal courts.
Courts.
Okay.
And the courts exist only by psychology. If you look in Gray's Anatomy at the corpus callosum, the brain, the big body, corpus callosum, you will find that it's separated into cura and diastri. That means circuits and districts.
Yeah, of course.
Right. When you go to the 1789 Judiciary Acts, you will find that the courts that you enter into every day do not exist. Okay? You can go to court in, we were talking about Phil, Oceana County, Michigan. If you go in there on the second Tuesday of November, where are you located at? Delaware. What about in April? First Monday in April, I think it was. Don't quote me on these, but you can read the 1789 Judiciary Acts. First Monday in April, for example, Massachusetts.
You're going to Massachusetts.
Right. Because that's where the revenue is being filtered to.
Right.
You're not in an actual court because of the separation of the spiritual and the temporal. These courts, it's all psychological. You just believe it exists. They're always agencies by estoppel.
Do you have to file your court paper in a court of record, or can you do it? Or aren't you basically creating your own court that doesn't even have a name? I mean, like when you go in and squash their process, they've got a process going in a Nisi Prius court of no record administrative process.
Right.
That's their venue.
Right. Only through attorney work product doctrine.
Right. So they're doing their thing.
Shuffling
around, whatever.
Record off of the court record by attorney work product doctrine and different variants on privacy laws.
Okay, so that's their venue. Okay,
right.
Now when you
can invoke your venue at any time by admitting evidence onto the court record.
Okay, so when you admit evidence onto the court record, a public record,
right,
because
it's
public law, because it's public law.
Right.
It becomes public record because it's public law.
Right,
okay.
And it compels a judge to be there. Only a judge can review evidence, view evidence, and rule accordingly.
Okay.
An administrator or trier of fact can hear hearsay, testimony, see exhibits, which are only examples.
Right, they're not actual evidence.
Right, that's why they've used attorney work product doctrine.
Okay, so when you actually submit evidence properly, you are commanding the judge to be there.
Right.
If he decides to show up and then does something stupid and you wrong word.
Right,
I was going to say about conclusions of fact.
Right,
finding facts and conclusions of law. If
they're not able to
doesn't choose to be there, he can't do that.
Right, and he never does.
Right, they never actually do it.
He can't.
They can't because
So you come back in and you demand more specific findings of facts and conclusions of law, and at that point in time, usually what he'll do is reconsider his own order. Now, this is the funny part. This becomes schizophrenia because you have a judge there that just issued an order and is now sua sponte asking himself to reconsider his own order. So at this time, you feed him to the system and you say, this is an adult in need of protection. We need to appoint a guardian ad litem over him because he just maintained an order and has asked himself within schizophrenia or some other mental deficiency to reconsider his own order.
That's brilliant.
Okay, you have to feed them to each other.
In that case, you're feeding the man to the man.
Absolutely. And it's so beneficial because once you invoke the administrative process over that judge, you're putting him in that cell where you used to be.
Right.
Right?
Sure.
You can do the same with an attorney. Usually attorneys will come back and they'll say, The other day I got one. Okay, to strike evidence, they have to prove that it's false. That means usually that they have to prove it does not exist, which is impossible. You have admitted it and revealed it on the court record. There's some idiots out there that will try to lie and admit evidence on a court record that's not evidence, and they'll get nailed for it.
Right.
They will absolutely get nailed for it. But when the attorney comes in to strike, the letter I got the other day was a letter to nullify everything that was put on the court record. So then, in response to that, I put in a notice and I said, are you aware that your client is asking you to violate 18 U.S.C. 1506? This allows you to be a felon. Are you sure you want to go any further? They didn't go any further. They cannot. Once admitted on the court record or any public record, that evidence cannot be removed, altered, omitted, avoided, anything else. That stays there. You have to stand your ground and make sure that by letter, he quoted a whole bunch of shit, but the whole thing was that it was a letter.
It wasn't a motion or anything. It was just a letter to you saying... A letter to
the court and then CC to my client. Right. All it was hot air.
Just blah, blah, blah.
Make sure that you're going through and you follow through. Are you sure you want to do this? Because this is a violation of 18 U.S.C. 1506 and you will be nailed with a felony violation. You know, this is your opportunity.
To knock it off.
Right.
Or to get hit.
To pick a fall guy. You're also telling them, you've already told them in your initial evidence to pick a fall guy. Now you're circling it out and you're making sure that somebody's being put into that chute. Are you aware that you're going to be a felon too? Do you want to go this route or do you want to roll over on the guy that I already gave you?
Which is, in that case, who?
Yeah.
Whoever.
Whatever happened, it was the other party.
Okay.
The other party, his own client, and then that one was an administrative case because his own client, what we claimed was she came in and she said, this is all hearsay. It was recorded documents that she said that to my client that she would never ever lie and falsely accuse him again if he removed the contempt motion from last year. At that time he stipulated and he was nice and chivalry and he said, yes, I'll remove it as long as you're never going to lie again. And in a recorded conversation she promised not to lie. In a written documentation she promised not to lie when they stipulated. So this year, when she again falsely accused my client, we brought in a writ of ser fascis and said, why should that not be revisited? Now you show cause to me why we're not going to revise that order because you've lied. And we put on the evidence that she had lied and promised not to lie. And then she came in kicking and screaming. Well, she didn't give her attorney any of that documented evidence. She said she was served with this evidence and she wanted it stricken from the court record. And that's what that letter was. So when I wrote back and I said, are you sure you want to be a felon? I said, she's unable to assist counsel. Therefore, she requires a guardian ad litem over her. Go ahead, administer her all you want to. She's the one that assigned the parenting rights onto the state. She's the one that's falsely accused. That's how the assignment occurred. And it's still the same thing that I said in the beginning because we're throwing her under the bus. This is putting the title on the horse forehead, by the way, that makes Babel fall. You have been taught to be chivalrous. You've been taught to protect the female at any and all costs. And that's what he was doing last year. He learned from that mistake. He spent another year fighting deceased children, fighting to be involved in their lives as she falsely accused him over and over again. And as these false allegations go along, they get more aggravated. You know, it started out...
But that's all evidence that when you actually put that onto evidence.
Absolutely.
Then it's there.
It's there, and
that's
she's already indicted. And
you can't,
right.
And you can't wiggle out of it once it's there, properly put there. And once you properly put it there, that answers this question. Right. It automatically becomes a court of record.
Absolutely.
You don't have to state it as a court of record.
Absolutely.
It is a court of record.
Absolutely. And the judge has been compelled, and the judge is acting accordingly in that case. And when he was notified, he's notified my client, blah, blah, blah. Everything is straight down the middle. And now there's a judge, and he has two hats on. He's a judge over my client and the children because he doesn't have any jurisdiction over my client or the children any longer. He only has jurisdiction as an administrator over her and her estate now. Okay, so we fed her to the system. Everybody needs to be aware that even though she has big brown eyes or big blue eyes and she looks really sweet and she's got tits and a vagina, she is not to be protected. The only way that Babel falls is what? When the whore of Babylon has the title written on her forehead. You have to put her in the chute to get the children out. It's a requirement to get the children out. So you're walking through the garden and somebody says, don't eat of that tree of knowledge. Fide, the fig, fiduciary, don't partake. 1 Corinthians 6. Now the body is not for fornication, but for the Lord, and the Lord for the body. And God hath both raised up the Lord, and will also raise up us up by his own power. So it seems to me somebody's delegated their authority to somebody, right? Genesis 3. So Eve goes off and purchases from the law merchant. And the law merchant, or Lord God, says, and I will put enmity between thee and the woman, and between thy seed and her seed. It shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel. The word sabotage stems from the word sabat, or wooden shoe, bruises the heel. So the female has become your saboteur, because she went off to the law merchant. She's purchasing from the other father. Patriotic, calling it her father. The word conceive or concept comes from the Latin concepere, past participle conceptus, to take in and hold, become pregnant. From capere, to take, and cap, to grasp. So she's grasping all these concepts. Feminism, female, specialization, reservation of her rights. Winning hearts and minds is a concept occasionally expressed in the resolution of war, insurgency, and other conflicts in which one side seeks to prevail not by the use of superior force, but by making emotional or intellectual appeals to sway supporters of the other side. The use of the term hearts and minds to reference a method of bringing a subjugated population on side was first used during the Malayan emergency by the British, who employed practices to keep the Malayans' trust and reduce a tendency to side with ethnic Chinese communists, in this case by giving medical and food aid to the Malays and indigenous tribes. A British report of the time stated, one impressive result of this campaign has been the extent to which Malay women are now taking part in political and social affairs, something still very uncommon among a Muslim people. So much for official measures to encourage racial unity, but both General Templar and his successor, Sir Donald McIlvray, have insisted time after time that Malayan patriotism cannot be imposed from without or from above. It must develop in the hearts and minds of the Malayans themselves. Fiduciary comes from fiduciarius, holding in trust. From fiducia, trust. The fig tree, the tree of knowledge. She went off, she trusted the state, and she patronizes it, calls it her father. One such concept, or the way that she is being held in chattel, to take. Remember, concept means to take, is by the action and use of the political tool of feminism. She can go after the other father. It'll give her food stamps. It'll give her welfare benefits. It'll give her free housing, free daycare, free schooling. This enables her to be chattel. The word Jesus, G-E space S-U-I-S, means your earth. And when she went off to the other father, she began being crucified by legal action, terrorized by legal action. And she becomes your saboteur because of this action of law. Now, the Coronation Charter is actually the crucifixion of Christ. If you go and read the Charter of Liberties, King Henry I, you will find that this is the crucifixion. Barnabas was let off, all of the murderers were let go, and yet the female was still kept in chattel. The biblical metaphors of Jesus is a real-time walk. This is you, this is your earth, and it's being taken and crucified by the governor, Pilate. From Black's Law, first edition, gubernator. In Roman law, the pilot or steersman of a ship. She's the vessel. The concepts she takes on are names. N-A-A-M, from Black's Law Dictionary, the attaching or taking of movable goods in chattels called vis or mort, according to the chattels, were living or dead. Now, vis means life, mort means death. Nemer, in old records, to take, seize or distrain. Nematio, in Old English, Scotch law, distraining or taking of a distress. And impounding, she's claiming to be a female. or teacher or doctor or whatever else title the state gives her, she's contracting with them. So who told you were naked? The law merchants, so he could sell you the clothes. From Black's Law, first edition, deposit, a naked bailment of goods to be kept for the depositor without a reward and to be returned when he shall require it. Now remember the name? She's making herself a deposit. Where is she depositing herself? From Black's Law, first edition, bank, a bench or seat, the bench or tribunal occupied by the judges, the seat of judgment, a court. She's depositing herself into the court or bank by name, nomenclature. She's being grasped by concept. And in this, she's a saboteur. The bruise on your heel. She's hating you and loving that other daddy. Come out of her.